In the heart of the bustling city, where skyscrapers kissed the clouds and luxury cars lined the streets like jewels on a necklace, stood Le Chateau, a restaurant renowned for its opulent ambiance and exquisite cuisine. Crystal chandeliers dangled from vaulted ceilings, casting a golden glow over tables draped in pristine white linens. Patrons, dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits, savored dishes that whispered of Michelin stars. Among them tonight was Victoria Harrington, a self-made real estate mogul whose empire spanned continents. Her blonde bob framed a face etched with the sharp lines of ambition, and her pearl necklace gleamed like a badge of her unyielding success. Accompanying her was her husband, Edward, a mild-mannered accountant who preferred the quiet of spreadsheets to the clamor of high society. They had reserved the corner booth, the one with velvet curtains that offered a semblance of privacy amid the elegant chaos. As they settled in, Victoria's eyes scanned the room with the precision of a hawk, her lips curling into a faint smile of entitlement. The evening promised to be another testament to her dominance, a night where every server bowed to her whims. Little did she know, the threads of fate were weaving a tapestry of humility just beyond the silverware's shine. The sommelier approached first, presenting a bottle of vintage Chateau Margaux with the reverence it deserved. Victoria waved him off with a dismissive flick of her manicured hand, her voice slicing through the air like a chilled knife. "Do I look like I need recommendations from the help? Bring the 98 Lafite instead, it's the only one worthy of my palate." Edward shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his tie suddenly feeling too tight, but he said nothing, as was his custom in these displays of her temperament. The sommelier nodded graciously and retreated, his face a mask of professional serenity. Moments later, their waitress arrived, a young woman in her late 20s named Elena Vázquez. She moved with the quiet grace of someone who had danced through life's tempests, her dark hair pulled into a neat bun, her uniform crisp despite the long shift. A faint scar traced her jawline, a remnant of a past she kept locked away, but her smile was warm, genuine, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Harrington. May I start you with some sparkling water or perhaps our signature amuse-bouche?" Elena's voice was soft, accented with the lilting rhythm of her Spanish heritage, carrying the melody of distant olive groves. Victoria's gaze landed on Elena like a spotlight on a flaw. She leaned forward, her diamond earrings catching the light as she appraised the waitress from head to toe. "Sparkling. Only if it's Perrier, and make it chilled to exactly 42 degrees. God, do you people even know what service means anymore?" The words dripped with venom, each syllable laced with the arrogance of someone who viewed waitstaff as mere extensions of the furniture. Edward cleared his throat, murmuring a soft, "Victoria, please," but she shot him a glare that could curdle cream. Elena, unfazed, jotted the order on her notepad, her pen moving with steady precision. "Of course, ma'am. I'll ensure it's perfect. And for appetizers." Victoria snorted, folding her arms across her cream silk blouse. "The foie gras, but only if it's not that pedestrian version you serve to the rabble. And none of that molecular gastronomy nonsense, keep it classic, or don't bother." The surrounding tables hushed subtly, ears perking at the escalating tone, but Elena's expression remained a serene pool, reflecting nothing of the ripples beneath. She nodded once more, turning to glide away, her steps measured, as if she carried the weight of unseen worlds on her shoulders. As the evening unfolded, Victoria's barbs grew sharper, each one aimed at Elena with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. When the foie gras arrived, presented on a porcelain plate rimmed in gold, Victoria prodded it with her fork like it was suspect contraband. "This is supposed to be gras. It looks like it was scraped from the bottom of a peasant's pan. Do you train your staff in a back alley taqueria?" Laughter bubbled from her lips, brittle and forced, drawing uneasy glances from nearby diners. Edward buried his nose in his menu, feigning interest in the wine pairings, his cheeks flushing a deep crimson. Elena returned promptly, her tray balanced effortlessly despite the verbal assault. "Is everything to your satisfaction, ma'am?" Victoria's eyes narrowed, her voice rising an octave. "Satisfaction? This is an insult to my intelligence. Fetch the manager, now. I won't tolerate incompetence from someone who clearly doesn't belong in a place like this." The restaurant's hum dipped lower, conversations fracturing like thin ice under the weight of her outburst. Elena's dark eyes met Victoria's for the first time, holding them with a quiet intensity that spoke volumes unspoken, before she inclined her head. "Right away, Mrs. Harrington." I'll summon him personally. The manager, a portly gentleman named Henri with a mustache that curled like a question mark, bustled over within minutes, his bow tie askew from haste. He listened to Victoria's tirade with the patience of a confessor, nodding at intervals as she catalogued Alina's supposed sins. The water's effervescence too aggressive, the bread basket's warmth insufficient, the waiter's timing an affront to civilization itself. This girl is a disgrace, Victoria concluded, jabbing a finger toward Elena, who stood poised at a discreet distance, her posture impeccable. Fire her on the spot, or I'll ensure every one of my associates hears about this travesty. Le Chateau's reputation hangs by a thread because of hires like her. Henry's brow furrowed, a bead of sweat tracing his temple, but his response was measured. Madam, I assure you, Elena is one of our finest. But perhaps I can offer a complimentary dessert to smooth. Victoria cut him off with a bark of laughter. Dessert? I want justice. Or better yet, her apology on her knees. The air thickened, charged with the electricity of impending storm, as other patrons whispered behind manicured hands, their phones subtly angled to capture the drama unfolding like a live theater production. Elena stepped forward then, her voice cutting through the tension like a bell tolling midnight. Mrs. Harrington, I apologize if my service has fallen short of your expectations. It's never my intention to disappoint. But there was something in her tone, a subtle undercurrent of steel wrapped in velvet, that made Victoria pause mid-breath. Your intention? Spare me the platitudes. People like you always have excuses, immigrant dreams or whatever sob story you peddle. The word, immigrant, landed like a slap, heavy with implication, and Edward finally stirred, his hand reaching for hers. Victoria, that's enough. Let's just enjoy the meal. But she wrenched away, her face a mask of righteous fury. Henri interjected smoothly, perhaps a private word in my office, madam. Yet before Victoria could retort, the restaurant's double doors swung open with a flourish, admitting a figure who commanded the room's attention without a single utterance. It was Marcus Langford, the enigmatic billionaire philanthropist whose name evoked images of quiet power and vast influence. Tall and broad-shouldered, with silver threading his dark hair, he scanned the dining area until his gaze settled on the corner booth, and on Elena. Marcus's presence rippled through Le Chateau like a stone skipped across a still pond. Waitstaff straightened imperceptibly, chefs peeked from the kitchen passed through, and even the pianist softened his nocturne to a hush. He strode directly to the table, his bespoke suit moving with him like a second skin, and placed a gentle hand on Elena's shoulder. Everything all right here, Elena? I heard raised voices from the entrance. Victoria's smirk faltered, recognition dawning like a slow eclipse. Marcus Langford wasn't just any patron, he was the shadowy force behind half the city's cultural landmarks, a man whose donations built hospitals and whose investments toppled tycoons. But it was Elena's response that froze the moment in amber. She turned to him with a familiarity that bordered on affection, her smile blooming fully for the first time that evening. All good, Marcus. Just a minor hiccup with the Harringtons. Mrs. Harrington feels the service lacks polish. Marcus's eyes, sharp as cut emeralds, shifted to Victoria, who suddenly found her wine glass fascinating, her fingers trembling slightly around its stem. The revelation hung in the air, unspoken yet thunderous. Elena wasn't just a waitress. She was Elena Langford, Marcus's wife, the unassuming co-owner of Le Chateau and a dozen other ventures veiled in her husband's shadow. Years ago, before the scars and the aprons, Elena had been a rising star in hospitality, her innovative concepts revolutionizing fine dining. But after a brutal betrayal by a former partner, Victoria's own firm, no less, she had chosen anonymity, serving incognito to remind herself of the roots that grounded her empire. Marcus squeezed her shoulder, his voice low but carrying the weight of authority. Victoria Harrington, I believe you've met my wife before, albeit under less cordial circumstances. Victoria's face drained of color, her pearls suddenly feeling like a noose. Memories flooded back, the boardroom deal soured by cutthroat tactics, Elena's dreams crushed under the heel of ambition. Edward's eyes widened in horror, piecing together the connections he had long ignored. The restaurant held its collective breath, forks suspended mid-air, as the power dynamic inverted with the grace of a falling domino. Victoria stammered, her voice a fragile thread unraveling. Elena. This is absurd. You're the waitress. I mean, no offense, but Words failed her, tumbling into incoherence as the reality sank in like quicksand. Elena regarded her with pity, not malice, her expression softening the blow. None taken, Victoria. Life has a way of serving us what we need, not always what we order. Perhaps tonight's lesson is in recognizing the humanity behind the uniform. Marcus nodded, his tone even. Le Chateau is Elena's vision made flesh. Every detail, from the crystal to the caviar, bears her touch. Insulting her is insulting the very soul of this place. Henri, sensing the pivot, signaled discreetly, and the sommelier reappeared with a fresh bottle, this time, a rare vintage gifted from Elena's personal cellar. The diners resumed their murmurs, but now laced with awe, phones forgotten as respect reclaimed the narrative. Edward, seizing the moment, extended a hand across the table. Please, accept our deepest apologies. We had no idea. But Victoria remained silent, her Shaka statue's poise, the rich woman's armor cracking under the weight of unforeseen truth. As the night waned, the restaurant exhaled, returning to its symphony of clinking glasses and murmured laughter. Marcus and Elena retreated to a private alcove, their laughter a soft counterpoint to the earlier storm, a reminder that true power lay not in titles but in quiet resilience. Victoria, humbled, picked at her untouched dessert, the sweetness now bitter on her tongue. Edward paid the bill in full, adding a generous tip scrawled with a note of contrition. They left under the chandelier's forgiving light, the city streets outside suddenly vast and unforgiving. In the days that followed, whispers of the encounter spread through elite circles, a cautionary tale etched in velvet ropes and reservation ledgers. Victoria, ever the survivor, penned a public apology in the society pages, crediting Elena for the eye-opening evening. But deeper still, in the quiet of her penthouse, she pondered the waitress's words, the scar's story untold, and the fragile line between server and sovereign. Le Chateau thrived on, its doors open to all who entered with grace, a beacon where egos were served last, and humility was the finest vintage of all.